I turned 50 and I was like, this is my year. All the years I've been working, it's all going to come together. And like, yeah, I don't even know. Like, what the what happened?
Welcome to the Think Splendid YouTube channel. My name is Lynn Stevens, and I'm the founder and CEO of Think Splendid, where we provide business strategy for luxury wedding and hospitality brands. In celebration of 15 years in business, I'm sitting down with 20 wedding industry leaders from around the world to discuss the realities of owning an event business in 2020. These splendid conversations are honest, candid, and authentically optimistic. In this video, I chat with my dear friend Jes Gordon, a celebrity event designer based in New York. You may have read Jes's pandemic story in the Wall Street Journal, but to quickly catch you up, she realized that spending $125,000 a month on overhead for her company was not going to cut it when zero event business was coming in. She packed up shop in Manhattan and, at the age of 50, moved in with her mom in upstate New York. Jes and I talk about her decision to move and the privilege in being able to do so, as well as Instagram versus reality, her future plans, and why we both hate the phrase, stay in your lane. Here's our conversation. Enjoy. I usually get started by asking everyone how they got started. I don't know if I want to do that with you. I feel like you have a lot to say.
I always have a lot to say. I mean,
I know.
And it's like even more now.
Do you want to catch everyone up who may be watching?
Oh, God.
What?
Where am I?
Jes Gordon's 2020, because I feel like people are experiencing this to varying degrees. And some people have it a lot worse than others, and some people have it a lot better off than others. And even though I think you and I speak from a pretty privileged place, it's still hard when an industry got shut down, because bringing people into gatherings is literally what we do, right? Like, you know, the past recessions, people still partied, they still had their events. It was just either under an NDA or they spent less money, but they were still allowed to gather. So this year, I think that's it's obviously the key differentiator. I think you were smart to see what was coming in the beginning, and a lot of people sort of dug in, and I understand the need to be positive and keep a healthy, positive mindset and all of that. But I don't think being optimistic means you have to be a Pollyanna and just pretend. So if you could catch people up to speed on how you approach this year.
Yeah, wow. For me, and I've kind of said this before, I've used the analogy of when you see a tsunami coming, you run like hell. And some people wait and stand on shore to see how severe it is. And then others of us run no matter what. And a lot of people, including even like news channels and things like that, have called me extreme. They thought that my initial move was very extreme by just picking up and leaving the city after being in business there for 35 years. The thing is that for me, I'm Jes Gordon and my business is Jes Gordon. So it doesn't matter if I'm on Mars or in Arizona or in London or whatever. No matter where I am, my talent and what I have to offer to any industry is with me. So when people are like, oh my God, all your stuff and da-da-da-da, none of that really matters. What really matters, what I've learned through all of this, which I've never put myself ahead of anything, what matters is me and my safety. So I kind of saw it in the way that I'm not any good to any of my clients or my industry if I get ruined, if I get buried in that tsunami, or if I get swept away. So my first instinct was like, you better run to high ground. So at least you can continue to lead, you can continue to service, and you can continue to survive. And those were my key elements. And it was very clear to me. I had like a very kung fu moment where I was just like, this is clear. and there's no other alternative. And it's funny because in our world, and I'm the first to admit it, with social media and everybody giving their opinion all the time, I even flip flop a little bit as, you know, even as solid as I am. And with this, I did not. So I feel pretty good. I ran to higher ground, meaning upstate New York. I did things that I literally declared out loud that I would never, ever do. I've done all of them and I've lived to tell about it. And I feel like I've become a better person because of it. And I might even be a happier person. So all the things that I thought were going to bring me complete despair have actually brought me joy. You know, being a 50-year-old woman living with your mother, whoa, I did not see that even being doable, even though I love my mother. But I was living in my dead father's bedroom, which was really perverse. And all of these things that I had said no, no, no to, I was in. And it was feeling like yes, yes, yes. And you're right. Some of us are much more blessed because a lot of us don't have mothers to run to or a house upstate or, you know, a great deal on storage for all of your clients' stuff. And I felt little by little, I was having a really nice time. And I've had like a really nice time. I mean, there is a whole compartment to me that's very stressed out. And I call it like the dark side, where it's like, it's not like a black and white cookie. It's like a black and white cookie cut into fourths. So there's like a little fourth that's black and then white and then white and then black. I kind of have that. It's like a checkerboard. And so, but I think that that's called balance. It's the yin and the yang. And it's the first time in my life that I've actually had the time to feel those two sides out and hopefully try to balance them. I've always been yang, 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 yang. I've never had both sides. And now I kind of have both sides. And I'm kind of going across this cool black and white checkerboard. I'm okay because I know when I hit the black, there's white right next to it. And it's okay.
That's a great analogy. You've always been very go, 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 first of all. But two, you've also always been, this isn't going to stop me. And, you know, like after 9/11 and other things, it was very much like, I'm going to live my life on my terms and how I see it. And you aren't going to stop me. And I don't think that this stopped you. I think it just redirected you. But can you talk maybe a little bit about, you said you were very zen about the decision. Can you talk a little bit about maybe how you just came to that decision? Like, was it just a light switch of like an epiphany of this is what I need to do, you know, get rid of things and move upstate in with my mom and just try and keep afloat during this? Or was there a little bit of a process?
You know, I am very impulsive for sure, but I find that impulses are often directed by instinct. And, you know, listen, I'm not a kid, I'm 50 years old. So like my instinct at this point comes from an enormous amount of process, you know, a lot of living and a lot of mistakes and a lot of learning from those mistakes. So a lot of things may seem impulsive, but I think they're coming from just a library of life experience. And for me on March 13th, it was the last day I saw Kate. We were in the office. And when I saw Kate kind of be like, I don't think we're coming back here, that's when it was a very big reality for me, because this is somebody that I spent 20 hours a day with for like the last 6 years. I felt it. And when I went to my building, which was just a few blocks away from my office, there was just something, the light switch did kind of go off and on all at once. It was flickering. It was like, it was a disco moment because I just felt automatically, I'm very good at becoming detached very quickly. I'm very adaptable. So like the apartment that I coveted and loved and the office that I coveted and loved, and I can turn off and just not give a about it in 2 minutes. because I have lost a lot of things in the past. I have, 9/11 and all that kind of stuff. And back in the day, I was in Nolans during floods and things like that. So things are just things. And again, you kind of just get down to you and the dog. And listen, I don't have kids. I'm not married. So I'm very self-directed. And the second in line are my clients. So I just, in my mind, I had to put those clients' things on my back and get the out. That was kind of it. I already knew Kate was safe. She went back to Queens, and then I knew that she was going to be spending a lot of time her parents have a beach house in Jersey. So I already knew that was taken care of. But other than that, that's kind of felt like I kind of had a light load comparable to others.
Light comparable to others, but also heavy comparable to others, because New York is very expensive. Mm-hmm. Being a luxury event professional in New York tends to carry high overhead, especially if you're in design like you are. Can you talk a little bit about the process of letting go of the office and the warehouse situation and other production space if you had it, and even your apartment? Because how long had you been in that apartment? Not super long.
Not too long. I had been there. So I've been with related companies for 21 years. So I lived in an apartment when I was displaced from 9/11. They were opening up their first luxury high rise in Chelsea, and they had heard about me in the newspaper, and they were like, come be our first tenant here. And I did. And then when they opened Abington House at Hudson Yards, they're like, come move up there. And I was like, I did. And that was 6 years ago.
Okay, and 6 years. Longer than I thought.
Yeah, 6 years.
I keep saying yesterday in April, and it's
right, yeah.
Last week.
And they just signed a 2-year lease, another 2-year lease, March 4th, right before this all happened. So yeah, I think for me, and I'm going to be completely transparent, I did not legally walk away from my office lease at all. I was in a 10-year lease. I had 4 years left. I was very communicative about it. I wrote to them and I asked for any kind of deference, and they said no. And they said, we can take 3 months out of your security deposit, but you have to pay it back within 6 months. And I said, I got to be honest, it doesn't really help me. And as I saw the time getting closer, I was like, I don't really feel I want to squat here. I don't want to be evicted. So I moved out. I left it in pristine condition. I let them know. I said, I will be vacating as of June 5th and come after me later. And, so far, not a lot has happened, but I'm sure it's coming down the pike. My apartment, I have to really give kudos to Related because they let me out. They purposely, I was paying a discounted rate on my very high rent because I'd been with them for so long, and they're like, listen, we're going to keep the price the same so we can rent it very quickly. And they did. They rented it like within 2 weeks, and they let me out. So right now, the production space, they were great. They let me out. I was just really transparent. I said, I'm not paying rent anytime soon. There's no way. I mean, I think I was up to 35 grand in rent a month between the places. Not happening.
Right.
So I was just really, I think my advice there is to communicate. Don't just move out in the middle of the night and just be like, yeah, f the man, I'm not doing it. You cannot do that. You have to be very communicative, because when the case does come to court, and it probably will, I can look at the judge and just be like, listen, this is where I was. I explored all my options. I hit a brick wall. I didn't want to squat. I wanted them to be able to give the office to somebody else, because not every industry is shut down. So you could rent it. So I didn't take advantage of the fact that they weren't allowed to evict me, and I split. So we'll see. I mean, that does keep me up at night a little bit. But guess what? Me and 6 million other people did the same exact thing. And I keep reminding myself, and this helps me a lot, and I think this is for everybody, this was not our fault. We didn't do something wrong. We didn't f up on an event. We didn't screw a client over. We didn't ruin our businesses by messing up. This is not our fault. I keep telling myself that because I kept trying to take the brunt of it. And even my mom was like, Jes, what the fuck were you supposed to do? She was like, what were you supposed to do? And, that's really kind of gave me a lot of peace. And I hope it gives other people peace as well.
Yeah.
They're not alone. We're all doing it.
Yeah. So you mentioned the 35 grand in rent between all the spaces. What's your business burn rate typically? Are you comfortable sharing that?
My business what rate?
Burn rate, like the monthly spend.
Oh, I mean, I would say probably well into the hundreds.
Of thousands.
Yeah.
Per
Yeah.
month.
New York. Yeah, probably I would say healthy base is 125K a month between insurances, payroll, health insurances. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I had an external CFO that was a keeper, accountant, business manager. Yeah. Probably $125.
Okay.
I know that sounds insane. I know.
It will. But I also think I think sometimes people don't understand. They know New York is expensive. They think that these high-end event pros are just raking in cash all the time. And
that's our fault.
That is our fault. We can talk about that in a second because I do want to talk about that with you.
Say about that.
Yeah. But it's also, it gets treated like it's profit, and it's not. They don't see, $125,000 a month going out the door in overhead. Like you said, you need a team. That's payroll. You have the insurance you pay for. And not just health insurance, but workers' comp and all the other business insurances you have to carry and liability and all of that. And it's a lot of money. And I think you were smart to realize that you are Jes Gordon and you can do what you do from anywhere. And you can scale down or up depending, but you can do what you do from anywhere, because I think people outside the industry especially don't get it. Like they don't understand that. And you do a lot of corporate events too, but they don't understand. And the media hates wedding spending. They hate wedding budgets. They're always like, can you believe the average wedding is $30,000? It's like, well, first of all, that also takes into account everyone who went to City Hall and got a license, and that's it. Like they didn't hold a party. But $35,000 to be able to do, or $30,000, 20% of that is what, 6,000? Like that's, first of all, if you're a planner, you can't take 20% on a $30,000 wedding. You're just eating a huge, like an entire fifth of their budget. You can't do that. But it is very much, where am I going with this? Do you know what I mean though? Like it's very expensive. And when you grow, your costs typically tend to grow as well. Even if revenue income grows, it's hard to keep overhead low in a city like New York, where you do need production space, and production space is going to be expensive no matter where you find it. Like even if you went out to Long Island City or somewhere, across the river, like it's going to be expensive no matter what. And people don't have, typically, if you live in the city, you don't have a garage or a backyard to like spray paint these table cards in or put the florals together and do that production. Whereas a lot of spaces in the rest of the country have that, right? It's that I started a business out of my spare room, or I started a business out of my garage. If you're living in New York, you don't have a spare room, probably, at least not at the beginning. And you don't have a garage usually. Right. So I think too that people who might react with, oh, just scale way back. And that's not to say people can't scale back, but just scale way back and like do it from wherever. The actual physical space limitations of New York play a huge role in how a business can grow there. When it does work that creates a tangible product. And as a floral designer, you create a tangible product.
Mm-hmm. Before this all happened, I was thinking of ways to work smarter and work less and delegate out a little bit. We were even speaking to some companies about farming out some of the production as well, as long as my creativity and my direction was on it. And I would oversee the people producing it. That was something that we were actively looking into. Because frankly, like, I'm exhausted. It wasn't even about the money anymore, but there is something to be said when you're 50 and you look at the bank account and you don't have a 401k and you don't have savings, and you're like, what the like, if you're 50 years old and you have absolutely nothing saved in the bank, there's something wrong. And, to keep giving back to the business, which is my baby, that's my child, it has to stop at some point, or it has to start giving back to you. And it's not just being an artist and creative and fabulous ego and seeing your name and winning awards. And unless you're monetizing, you really can't get up in the morning and do what you do. That's the true meaning of success, is when you are a creative person and you're monetizing on that creativity in some form or another. That's success. That's been my hardest thing that I'm dealing with right now. I don't feel successful because I'm not monetizing. I know that sounds like, 1930s banker man, but it just goes deeper than that. It goes deeper because I found a way to turn creativity into a profit. And that is something that I mastered at some point, and I want to keep that going. But now what's happening is, even before COVID hit, technology was stealing some of that away from us as well. The creativity wasn't as valuable. It was also overly saturated. I mean, our industry was beyond saturated. I do feel like, I hate to say, that not everybody's going to prevail through this, which is kind of a blessing as well. I hate to say, because if you really love this and it's in your blood, like me, I just don't have anything else. This is my life. I'm going to prevail because I don't have a choice. But if you are kind of tinkering with the idea of getting into events, you're out. It's not going to happen. It's just, you're not going to survive this. And hopefully you're going to come to something where, yeah, you know what, I'm going to plan stuff for my family and enjoy it, but I'm not going to make this a career. I do think a lot of the saturation is going to drop out over this. And I think that's actually kind of a good thing, I hate to say, for our industry, because it was just becoming too populated with not enough people that really understand it or make it a life mission, or make it a profession in the way that it needs to respect and honor what we do. And I think that brings me to that point where, we are not our clients. We should not be living like our clients. And if we are, then that's great. If you have a wealthy husband or a wife or whatever, that's great. And you happen to live in great wealth and you still work your ass off, that's cool with me. But I think what was happening was this charade where we're going on these fam trips and we're being treated to the most phenomenal things, me included. And I am living a life like a fucking millionaire, and I'm not. And the thing is that millionaires now are the middle class. Being a millionaire in New York is not a hard thing to do. It's actually not that big of a thing. Being a multimillionaire, that's a different kind of story. But I think a lot of us were starting to live like our clients, or we thought that we should. And I think that line got very blurred. And I also think that there's been a conservative take on how transparent we are. And I'm having an issue with that as well. I got a lot of criticism for being honest in the Wall Street Journal, for being honest in discussions like this, where some of my associates are like, shh, Jes, don't be such a loose cannon. And I'm like, dude, it's not a secret. And the sooner we let it out, the sooner we're going to get better. But everybody that kind of dug their heels in, or like, oh, this isn't a problem. I don't need to sell my house, or I don't need to do this, or I've got a PPP that's going to last me forever, which, by the way, you have to legally spend within 8 weeks. I think that that's hurting us a lot. So I kind of muted a lot of our industry through this. And I muted very dear friends, which I'm sad about, but it did give me a real eye-opener to who I feel is going to prevail and who will not.
I agree with you 100%. You know, we don't pay rack rate at Aman Resorts if we go on vacation, not on a fam trip, right? We probably don't even go to Aman Resorts on vacation. And we do get a lot of perks in this industry and sometimes friends and family discounts to these amazing luxury resort properties. But then it gets or invited on fam trips for free, basically. And then people post that like they're paying for it. And it's like, well, you're not. And I do understand. I love fam trips, not gonna lie. I love a nice hotel. This industry has spoiled me for all lesser hotels forever. Oh yeah.
I'm a
so I'm not anti any of that stuff.
Oh.
I like nice things. But there is a purpose in going on these fam trips, and that is one, sort of as a de facto site visit. You already have it out of the way. You can tell your clients, I've been to this property. I know where all the power sources are. I know where we did a tour. We saw this. I know the sizes. I know how that lawn is set up and that you're going to want this lawn instead for the ceremony, right? Like you can do all that and they're very valuable in that way. They're valuable for the resort. The Instagram posts are valuable for the resort to some extent. Not as valuable as some people think, but to some extent. But I think when that concept of fake it till you make it, or you have to look luxury to sell luxury, those are both myths. You don't have to do that. And you're going to survive if you're authentic and real, and you can have luxury items and you can have nice things. But if you're buying those, not because you want them, but because you're trying to keep up with the Joneses, luxury clients and ultra luxury clients know that just because you're wearing Louboutins, they have a yacht. They know you're not as wealthy as them. Like you're not fooling anyone.
And they don't want you to be. They don't want to hire. They're not hiring their best friends from the country club. They're hiring a service person. And we're lucky enough that creativity is considered a service. That's really lucky. But we are service industry, which is something that I feel like we've also forgotten a little bit. You know? But I agree, like, listen, I love nice things, and it's very good for us to be educated on what nice things are, because that does educate our clients as well.
Right.
You know, so listen, there's nothing wrong with any of that. I think the pressure on some of the younger people going into our industry and feeling like they have to be able to keep up with, you know, some of the older folks, including me, you know, in this industry, is hard. That's really, really hard. Or getting all the FOMO and, that's really, really rough. But I even see right now, I spoke to a really good friend of mine who's a florist, and he just got a call from another really good friend of ours who wants a free floral arrangement because that person is traveling to their town and is going to post it where they're staying. Now, that's not how you help each other right now. That's a really thing to do, I feel, at the moment. Asking associates for something for free for Instagram posts is not okay. And I think I think we're still missing the mark, because I think that there's a lot of very prevalent people in our industry that are doing like that. And I think that that's a problem. I think in their minds, they're moving forward, but they can't afford it. So they want to at least give the exposure. There's no malice involved, but I just think for me, it's the wrong math. It's not, you're not doing the right math. Right now, all you can really do, a great example is, for me, I have a beautiful wedding coming up in West Palm Beach, and I specifically made a decision. I asked the planner if she was okay with it. I am going to subcontract out the floral work. And I was transparent with the client. I said, I think it's best that we support each other. And they loved it. I'm making my money. I'm going to be a creative director on it. They are going to produce it. They're making their money. Everybody wins. And the client was absolutely thrilled because they feel responsible and better about themselves about throwing this very expensive wedding in just a couple of months. And then that way they're feeling like they're helping our industry and everybody's happy.
Right. I think that's key, because going back to what you said about people said, don't be so loose lips and like keep this to yourself, and you're going to scare off clients or potential clients. But at the same time, when people follow you on Instagram or Twitter or now TikTok for a while, and you share your personality on there, they feel like they know you, right? It's that co-presence phenomenon in psychology of your avatar, and they feel like they're actually your friend, whether they've never met you before, you've never texted or whatever. And that's a huge benefit of social media, huge benefit for industries like ours where we're not celebrities. Like I always say, if TMZ would not run a story about your divorce, you are not a celebrity. So with that definition, you can count on one hand the number of true celebrities who work in the wedding industry. So I think that people want to be supportive. They want to know that their event is creating jobs. There's an average of 43 wedding companies that work on just a normal wedding. And for luxury events, that number is even higher because they tend to be more complicated, and you're bringing in landscaping crews and all of that sometimes for these tented events out in a field where you're building an entire structure from nothing. So there's a lot of job creation in our industry, and people, I think that's what the media misses when they're like, can you believe weddings are so expensive? What a waste. It's like, well, one, it does create jobs, and I'm not into trickle down economics. And I don't think this is. It's direct job creation.
Of course. Yeah.
People send their kids to college because they made money being a wedding planner or a wedding photographer, right? It's not just cute shoes and whatever. And I have a closet full of cute shoes. So again, not anti that. But people want to help. And I don't think being authentic means laying all your cards face up on the table. I think you can still have boundaries. But you can't project this idea of everything's fine when it's not, if you also want people to help you. And that's why I think all of these, like the Illinois Event Coalition, or the one out of DC, and every state has sort of started their own event coalition, lobbying Congress, in the US at least, saying our industry needs help, and they have all the numbers and they're presenting all the data, and it's work that needs to be done. But when everyone on Instagram is pretending everything's fine and they're still paying $2,500 a night for this luxury resort in Bora Bora or whatever, it's like, first of all, you're not. Second, you look irresponsible traveling to Bora Bora right now. Third, you're telling the world that we don't need the help and then getting mad at Congress for not helping. So pick a side. Are you going to tell them we need help and act like it? Or are you going to continue lying and then be mad that people don't know that you're hurting?
I completely agree. And to your previous point, like all my friends that are not in this industry, they're just like, well, what's wrong? They have no idea. I think they think that I was just sitting on a mountain of cash savings, that I'm just waiting this out. They don't know I'm on unemployment. I've been furloughed for a while now. I haven't had an income since March 13th. So, you know, it's very hard for them to see their dear rock star friend, who really, I did very well for many, many years. I've been very lucky. It's been up and down, but believe me, I've monetized. I've done great things. They're like, cannot even visualize me in this position. They're like, what are you doing up in Poughkeepsie? I'm like, I can't pay $6,000 a month in rent for my apartment. I'm like, are you out of your mind? I have no income, like at all. So being honest about that, for me too, I think that when I was in the Wall Street Journal, I have to tell you, some of the response that I got on the flip side of my friends in the industry being was young people saying, I have to tell you that I was literally suicidal before I read that article. They said that to me. They said,
I believe it, because they've said it to me. Because of what I do, I get these emails and calls, and people are hurting. That's part of the reason I wanted to do this series, was let's just be honest about where everyone's at. And if you're better off than others, that's great. But then maybe take that and figure out how you can help some of the others who are hurting.
Exactly. That is Listen, it's my responsibility as a veteran in this industry to lead. It is. So I see myself as the 300 right now. Like, I am going to go out on the battlefield and I'm going to try for everybody. And I'm going to let you know what works and what doesn't work. So far, everything that I'm doing has been very smart. I do not regret any of it. It does not mean that I'm sitting pretty any way, shape, or form. I could be in huge legal trouble. I have no idea. I don't know. But I feel that it's my responsibility as being an elder in this industry to not play any games, to be a leader and go out and try different ways of surviving and reporting back to the people. That is my job right now. I feel very, very committed to that. I do not want to be there's two kinds of people. There's the townspeople that know that a storm is coming, and they close their shutters and they say to the people on the front lines, let us know when it's safe to come out. I'm not that person. I'm the person that's going to go out and do what I need to do, because honestly, I don't really have anything to lose. I need to be careful health wise, obviously, out here in the world. And I'm actually really safe up here compared to New York. I feel like right now it's our job as industry leaders to make our associates not feel alone. Let them know that there are silver linings. It's not all dark. There is dark, and it's okay that it's dark, because I certainly have my moments. But I think it is, and I really commend you, because it is important to make this accessible. It's almost like Talkspace, it's so important to have this accessible for people to listen to and know that they're not alone, because depression stems out of loneliness, and it's a dangerous, dangerous pattern. I have to be honest, I'm a little shocked that there hasn't been more suicide in our industry at the moment. And I'm thankful for that. But it was the first thing I was scared of. I mean, as we know, one of my dearest friends, Alexander McQueen, in fashion, you see that when they stop producing, a lot of them die. And that has been my most tough part, is that I've just decided to not stop producing. I create something every day. I don't care if I'm getting paid for it or not. I'm just coming up with, I'm just doing. And that's my responsibility. It's all of our responsibility. You can't just sit and wait for a new client to call you, because that's not happening right now. So you need to come up with your outlet. And for me, obviously, it's fitness, it's creativity, it's, whatever. That's your job right now. You're doing it by doing this. And, that's really cool.
Thanks.
Yeah. I like
it. Thanks. It's part of it is that creative outlet need. Part of it is that not wanting people to feel alone, because the beginning of all this, I just said, if you have a business question related to COVID, I will answer it for free. So you can email it in. The only stipulation is I will make it anonymous, but it has to go on the blog so that everyone can benefit. Because if I'm doing it for free, then it can't be just for you. Because everyone had similar questions. Everyone was in similar situations. Then, we're out now 6 months, 7 months in, and the tune on Instagram hasn't changed from the fabulous lives pre-pandemic, which I do think is fine to an extent. You don't want to go film yourself crying every day and have a grid of you just crying every day on IG Live, right? You don't want that. Wow. But you have to be transparent so that people know what's going on. You have to, at least at the very least, admit it's hard. And you have to stay creative through all that. And I think that's where authentic optimism comes in, because to me, authentic optimism is, this is what's happening, and here's what we're going to do about it. It's not, oh, that's not happening. From the very beginning, I said, this is not going to be a V-shaped recovery. And people got mad at me because it contradicted others. I put all the answers out there on the Big Splendid blog, and a lot of people were very grateful, but a lot of people got really mad. So it is that sort of, I know what you mean with people, and I know it's driven by fear.
Yeah.
right? Like it's,
Sorry, I feel bad for them. Yeah.
and I'm compassionate towards that, but at the same time, operating out of fear is not going to save our industry.
No, it's not going to save you. It's not going to save yourself. So why even do it? Like, don't get up in the morning. Operating out of fear is probably the most dangerous thing you can do. And it is the go-to. It's a knee-jerk reaction, but you need to pull it back. You need to quiet your mind. And if you need to, mute what's going on around you. That's kind of what I did. I just muted things so I could step into myself and not get distracted and have that belief in myself that I'm doing what's right for me. And I don't want to be swayed by anybody. Not right now. I mean, I normally don't. I'm a pretty tough girl that way, but you know, we're all human, you know, and there's a lot of noise out there. There's a lot of noise that's hard not to listen to.
It is hard not to listen to, and that's human to
Yep.
want to be accepted. And usually to be accepted, you have to go along to get along.
Of
And
course.
doing something so outside the norm is, again, it was a smart thing for you to do, because if you go under, that doesn't help anyone. So you can pretend, or you can take stock of bank accounts and be like, here's what I need to do to stop the bleeding.
I mean, listen, I'm going to be honest. I even went against my business manager, who's been my business manager for well over a decade. And I finally turned to him and was like, I got to do this. And he was like, yeah, but you're going to get in trouble. I was like, I don't know what to tell you. Me and everybody else are getting in trouble. It's going to be really, really hard to pluck out the ones that they're going to hang in town square right now. We're all doing it. So, you know, you just take a look at the math and realize that this is what had to happen. Yeah, you have to have the confidence in doing what you think is right and stick with it. And honestly, I didn't want to know anybody's opinion. I didn't ask for it. I didn't want it. I knew inside of here what I needed to do, and I stuck with it. And I'm really okay with that. I'm really good with it, because every time I got polluted, when somebody would say this, and this, or I'd go see a lawyer or whatever, I walked away feeling lost, confused, disappointed, and terrified. So I was like, I'm going to stop talking to these people and I'm just going to do my thing. And it's been great. I might be completely delirious. I have no idea, but I'd rather go down delirious and happy than go down confused and dark and terrified.
Do you want to talk about this?
Oh, that's my book. I'm already working on the sequel. Which is coming very quickly to me, by the way. Wow. It's going to be really fun. I actually think the sequel is going to be a lot better than the first one. I mean, my first novel, I started it like 4 years ago, and I kept having to put it down. And finally, it was actually really cool that, you know, during non-party season, Kate used to be like, look, why don't you go and write? Like, keep going. And I would take the afternoons out of the office, and I would go either to my apartment, or at the time I was a member of Soho House, which I'm not anymore. And I would sit by the fire and I would write it. And then I started to send the queries out. I sent out hundreds. And then one day I got home and there was a paper contract in my mailbox, which is very old school. I was like, is this real? And it was. And I didn't get an advance or anything because I was a novice author. But I went ahead and did it, and it took a very long time to get edited. And it's crazy. It came back right as I was getting sick. So it came back and I was like, oh my God, my attention span was like worse than usual. So my mom actually read over the final edition, like, for me. And then we sent it in, and that was it. And it's perversely seems to be doing pretty well. I'm bummed I can't market it the way that I wanted to, because I was going to go on book tour. But I'm going to try to start to do some virtual book clubs once I get settled here. I want to kind of do that. And you know what? It was kind of a bucket list thing for me. It was really, really kind of a self-discipline exercise. It's really hard writing a book.
It's really hard.
Oh, man. There were days I was like, this, like, why am I even doing this? But I'm excited. I find out, you know, what the sales are after December. Unfortunately, you don't see any proceeds until December or January. But so far, the publisher has been saying that it's selling nice and steadily, and that's all I could really ask for. It's really exciting. There's a couple screenwriters interested in it. And that would be delicious if I could just be like, wow, sell the show or something. That would be awesome. For me, and I think you've heard me say this at Engage a couple of times, my career is like a stovetop and there's lots of different pilot lights on at once. And some of them shine brighter than others at other times. And I just want to keep my hands in a lot of different things. And, that's a great way of our industry just went to, but wouldn't it be funny if all of a sudden I became a show writer for my book? Like how great would that be? So I think keeping an open mind and also really seeing where the tentacles of your talent can reach outside of your midsection, your nucleus of like events only, really think about where your talents can go in other places and really exercise those. That's important.
That's hugely important. And in the event industry, people's talents do overlap with so many other industries that aren't shut down right now. And I know you worked on Interview with the Vampire, and production design and set design is not that TV and film is doing much better right now, but there are opportunities that people don't stay aware of, or I think people fit themselves in a little box.
Exactly.
And we so get into, I really hate the phrase stay in your lane. I hate it. I hate it so much because to get off the freeway, first of all, you need to go several lanes over.
Yes, or go in the country. Oh, yeah.
You're never going to actually get to where you go unless you're driving in the slow lane the entire time, right? Exactly. And it's also, if you're creative and multi-talented, there's a lot of ways you can use that talent. I don't think someone should be a jack or Jill of all trades. I think that's very different than quote unquote not staying in your lane. But I think the whole stay in your lane advice comes from, again, that fear, fear that someone's going to encroach on your territory and what you're good at. And if they're good enough to take business from you, then you need to get better.
I totally agree. Holla. That's really beautifully said. And I totally agree. I think it's controlling. I think it's conservative. I think it's fearful. And I completely agree. I love talent. I write to the London Flower School every day on Instagram. They inspire me every day. These are students that write to me thinking I'm their goddess. And I'm writing to them saying, no. You teach me something every day. That's what creativity is. It does not have ego. It does not have limits. That's what it is.
I agree. I'm going to put a link for your book down in the description box below. And
$, yo.
I bought two. I have this one and I have the Kindle version because I wanted it to count towards your first week's sales.
Because that's really nice.
Listen, I've written a couple books and I know first week sales are huge.
I didn't even know that. That's what's so funny. I don't know what the hell is going on. I had forgotten about it, and all of a sudden it came in the mail. I'm like, oh my God.
First week really sales are a big deal. They're a big deal with Amazon's algorithm. They're a big deal as far as future contracts, all of that. So they matter. I always ask at the end of these, what are you most looking forward to?
I'm most looking forward to feeling like there's a future. I want to daydream about the future without it getting interrupted with fear and caution. I want to soar, and I kind of want to go on roller skates like Xanadu and just get excited about future projects without there being hiccups or caution blocks in the way.
I think a lot of people, when they're talking about the future, they're talking about returning to the old normal. But I know that you don't feel that you're going back to the old normal.
No, and I'm thrilled about it. Yeah, I'm not moving back to the city, which I never thought I would ever say in my entire life. I am not looking to do business the same way at all. I've opened up a second company that's only flowers. That's at a lower price point, which I'm really excited about because that's how I got my start. I am excited to run Jes Gordon LLC, my original company, a little differently. Like I said, where I want to consult a lot more. it's funny because I'm going much more hands-on in the other company, but it's smaller. And I want to go more brains on in the bigger company. So no, I'm excited for the new normal. I'm excited to balance out my life a little bit. I want to take nature hikes with my dog. I want to spend more time with my mom. I want to maybe go on a date. I want to live my life. I feel like I have held my life off for a very long time. And I think I was just given the chance to do it.
Do you think you held it off because you were quote unquote married to your work, or for other reasons?
Oh, married, mother, everything to my work, my identity. No, I feel like Jes Gordon stands beautifully on her own with or without the work. I've arrived. If that's one beautiful thing about middle age, hopefully you get that serenity and that confidence and that feeling of accomplishment. Whatever's going on right now, nothing can take away everything that I've done and that I'm going to do. I feel really, really at peace with myself. I feel good.
I'm just glad. You're what?
I'm just a little bored. I just want to work more. Yeah, I do. So yeah. Getting ready for that. I think the connections are very important right now. The conversations that I'm having with people such as yourself that I might not have had the time to do before, but I've kind of always wanted to do. I think listening and being patient and slowing down a little bit and really hearing what people are saying right now is a beautiful thing. And I think that I have been in a community that was a nutshell and a little exclusive, to be honest, to my liking, even before this all happened. And I just am really enjoying the new friendships that I'm forming through this within our industry. And some of them are with people that have never even done an event in their lives. They're just learning, or I might be doing some mentoring with them. The last time I was in the city, I went and had coffee with somebody and she was like, I can't believe you're sitting here having coffee with me. And I was like, I'm feeling pretty lucky right now. So I think that's been exciting. And I think everybody else should maybe listen. If somebody slides into your DMs that maybe you wouldn't pay attention to in the past because it's like a newbie asking advice, maybe talk to them. Nice. They might teach you something. I'm just learning from everybody and everything right now.